Okay. So let's so if you can put in a number. 847 945 061 89.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I just need to get. I'm just hold on one second. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We will get started in just a few minutes. We will turn our camera on when we are ready to begin.
So, Welcome. Good afternoon, evening. It is now 6:11. And I would like to call the meeting of the Community Advisory Committee open for Tuesday, February 18, 2025. Calling it to order. The locations for remote joining us are in the agenda packet. And I'd like to ask if members who are wishing to make a comment can do so by raising their hand on the Zoom functionality. And that you can do that by hitting number 9 if you're joining through the telephone. Can you please give us a roll call?
Thank you. Member Landry.
Present.
Member White. Member Buckingham.
Present.
Member Stevenson.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Swaminathan.
Yeah.
Member Lakshman.
Yep.
Member Checa. Present. Member Carr. Member Harper. Member Lutz.
Here.
Vice Chair Susan.
Here.
Chair Hernandez. We have a quorum.
Now that quorum has been established, I'd like to open for public comment. Do we have anybody in the room to speak at this point? Would you like to speak? Well, you can speak later then if you need to. Anybody online would like to have any public comments online?
There's no hands raised this time.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I'd like to give the chair report. Ed Hernandez is the approval of minutes. I apologize. I'd like to hear the approval of minutes from the January, was it the 13th meeting? Which meeting was that? So can we have the approval?
I move to approve the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes. Thank you.
Second.
So, Member Indira has moved, and thank you very much, Ernie, for seconding.
Thank you. Member Landry.
Yes.
Member White. Member Buckingham.
Yes.
Member Stevenson.
Yes.
Member Swaminathan.
Yes.
Member Lakshman.
Yes.
Member Checa. Thank you. Member Harper.
Yes.
Member Lutz.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Susan.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Given that, we will move to the chair reports from Ed Hernandez, who this was for the board meeting on the 15th of January of 2025. And they actually had some votes, and Council Member John Morata from Dublin was sworn in. Council Member Julie Del Cantancio from Newark was sworn in, and Mayor Christina Fugazzi from Stockton was sworn in. And then they approved the minutes, and they had some contracts entered, and they talked about the Oakland Roots sponsorship, Ava electric bike safety voucher, Luna MSA contract amendments, and energy efficiency program funding with the Treasury report. And we reported, the CAC chair, Ed, reported that the committee had revisited the local Development Business Plan, and with a presentation summarizing its accomplishments over the 5 years and discussions on potential future opportunities. The CAC has 2 active ad hoc committees, one being the Energy Affordability Committee, and its purpose is reviewing PG&E bills to improve public understanding at this moment and still in formation. And the Local Development Business Plan Committee, the LDBP Committee, is exploring new stakeholder engagement and evaluating what additional initiatives may be feasible. And lastly, there was an interest in forming a Resilience Hub ad hoc committee. Its launch is delayed or to be evaluated when the Emerald Cities Collaborative completes community meetings to gather insights on the concept. And the board had some chair and vice chair elections, which was an action item. Member Gonzalez was nominating Chair Botch for chair, or nominated by Chair Botch for chair, sorry, and Member Anderson for vice chair. Member Marquez seconded the motion. Chair Botch and Member Anderson accepted the nomination, which was approved unanimously with 4 people not attending. Some comments were that Chair Balch announced that the subcommittee appointments will be addressed at the February 19th meeting during that day, tomorrow, and reminded members to express their interest in advance. And Member Trego requested that the legislative update include discussion on potential implications of the governor's recent executive order on energy affordability, particularly its impact on renewable energy and efficiency programs and effects on community choice aggregators. Member Marquez asked for an update on resiliency hubs and microgrids as well. And AVA's meeting location will change in April, as at least at this current space in Oakland, 1000 Broadway, will expire in March, and we'll be moving to 1999 Harrison Street as a new venue. Member Roach suggested that board members and staff define their acronyms more frequently to assist new members in learning AVA Community Energy's terminology. And that's the chair report. And I'd like to move on.
I have a question.
Sure.
So can you say again what the board understands the Energy Affordability Ad Hoc Committee's goal is?
Well, all I can say is they're concerned about how it's going to affect us as a community choice aggregator.
But it was to review PG&E bills. That's what the board understands our ad hoc committee's goal is? Because you read that out in the beginning.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so back to our ad hoc committee, it should actually address exactly that because that's energy affordability. So we're going to.
So they understand it as being reviewing the PG&E bills, which is a little different. The reason I'm asking is I think it's a little different than what we on the committee view it to be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's why I wanted to clarify.
We will clarify the ad hocs. You will.
We
We will.
We will.
Clarify the ad hocs purpose
Okay.
and framework in future meetings. And, you know.
Well, I just want to make sure the board knows what we're up to, so they're not surprised if we're going in a different direction. So maybe we should send some kind of a message to like
We can.
define. Okay.
Yeah, we can. Do you want to have that as an action item?
I think it should be an action item for
Okay.
us.
So,
I mean, I know it has to go through this group first
Right.
before we present, but I think we should also be
So
clear.
when should
manage
we
expectations.
address that during the final parts of the meeting? Okay. So we will address that at a later time and hopefully create a little bit more framework for the board to understand us. Okay, great. Yes. Cynthia.
You mentioned something about the governor and renewable energy.
Sure. So, member Trey wanted to know more about energy affordability, particularly in its impact on renewable energy and efficiency programs, and then the effects upon community choice aggregators. So,
So I know we'll get to that later on in the agenda, but I would request that the CAC also have information back on the potential cuts.
okay. And are you talking about the ad hoc or just that the CAC is going to?
Group, yeah.
Yeah, great. Very good. So moving on. Item C5 is the chair and vice chair elections. I don't know if you all missed it, but we have continued Chair Hernandez and Vice Chair Souza, that would be me, please call me Mickey, as nominated, and we had a vote, which was 9 unanimous and 3 were not present. And so that was, I'm not going to go into the details of which members voted and which members didn't, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a very nice vote. So thank you all for entrusting us with our duties. And our next item is C6, allocating funds to AVA's Building Efficiency Accelerator. Are we have some comments?
Stockton and Lathrop Outreach.
Oh, Stockton and Lathrop, right. So it's not in this one. I have to move.
So let's skip her.
Oh, I have this one. But C5 was this. I'm going to my.
Yeah.
Is this a little old or something? We should apologize. I do.
C6 is what we talked about last.
Okay, let's do that. I think I do have it here on this one. The Stockton and Lathrop outreach update, which is item C5. And it is just an informational item. And we're gonna begin an update on outreach to Stockton and Lathrop in preparation for launch of service. How exciting.
All right.
So wait.
This is on. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Lieberman, Marketing Director at AVA. And yeah, thanks for receiving this update on our launch of service into Stockton. I prepared some slides and just probably spend 5 or 10 minutes. Happy to answer any questions at the end. So, yeah.
We have the agenda for this month's meeting is the top page, but the second page is the agenda from last month. Oh, wow. So I think you might have copied it.
Oh, no, this is the minutes.
Oh, I see. Okay, this, okay, got it.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's all right. Adrian, you want to are you clicking the slides? Thank you. All right, yeah, I'll provide some background, some of the major steps, and just an outline of what we're doing there to inform customers. Next slide. Next slide. All right, here you go. For those who I'm sure some of you have been following the course of events here with Ava. We, pertinent to this update in 2022, the city of Stockton joined Ava's JPA, and then in 23, Lathrop did. In 24, unincorporated San Joaquin joined, and so there's a year sort of freeze out between when they join and when service begins. So in April of this year, we will be launching service to Stockton and Lathrop, and then next year in the unincorporated areas of San Joaquin County. And next slide. I have a couple of slides just sort of providing some data around the size of the city and some demographics. So you can see there's a comparison here of Ava's service area as it stands currently, and then the addition of Stockton and Lathrop is about 120,000 new accounts. Quite a bit of load there, as you can see, not just commercial, residential, there's a lot more AC use. Customers tend to use more energy per capita, electricity, and there's some peak load info. And then on the next slide, you will see some interesting info around customer counts, but also number of, or percent of customers who are on solar net energy metering, NEM. It's a very high number in Lathrop because there is so much new construction there since the requirements around having solar on new residential construction went into effect. So 38% of the accounts we'll serve in Lathrop have solar on the roof. That is extraordinarily high. Also, a lot of customers who are on care, much higher than the AVA average. And in fact, in Stockton, 46% of residential accounts are on care. That's a lot. CARE is the income qualifying rate that gives customers a large discount on their energy. Also, you'll see that the monthly average residential use in Stockton is quite a bit higher than the more mild areas of the East Bay that we've been serving. So bills tend to be quite a bit higher there for residential accounts.
Higher for the same reason that Lathrop is new.
Lathrop is new, so some of the construction is more energy efficient, but they're also pretty large homes. So that sort of balances out, I guess.
46% are on care.
46% of the residential accounts are on care.
And that means that they're lower income?
Yeah, you have to apply for CARE. It's a statewide program.
I
and
know,
it's-
but
yeah.
it's just, I didn't realize that Stockton was that much different from, say, Lathrop or Ava, certainly from Ava generally in terms of socioeconomics.
Yeah, it's quite, the demographics there are quite a bit different from a lot of the other areas we serve.
Wow.
Yeah. So next slide. Adrian, thank you. Actually, one more. There you go. This is just a really high overview of our enrollment noticing mainly, which just as a reminder is that we send at least 4 enrollment notices to each customer. That's a regulatory requirement. And the timing of those notices is also, required by the state. The first one is 30 to 60 days before the customer's meter read when they're enrolled. The next one's 0 to 30, et cetera, et cetera. It's all related to the customer's meter read date. So it's a little bit complicated on our end, but the big picture is that they'll get a notice a month for 4 months. And then there's some supplementary noticing that we're doing that I think is on the next slide.
I have a question about,
Yeah.
is Stockton are there more farming? I thought that one of the other earlier discussions we had, that Lathrop and Stockton were more farming communities. Is that affecting or the reason that higher kilowatt hour usage? These are residential, but you didn't talk about that. Does that weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's a it's the biggest city in the Central Valley, so there's a lot more farming around there. I think we'll see more of an impact when we start service in the unincorporated parts of San Joaquin County next year, that'll be highly agricultural. There's less of it within the city limits, which is all that we're serving now. Yeah, or starting in April. These are just some screenshots to give you a sense of some of these enrollment notices. You'll see they're co-branded. So on the left, there's this letter The first enrollment notice is a letter in an envelope. You see it's co-branded with the city of Stockton. We've been doing this hand in hand with the cities. Envelope in the right is with the city of Lathrop, and then we're doing different formats. Actually, if you click to the next slide, you'll see that in February, we're doing a letter in a co-branded envelope. In March, a tri-folded self-mailer. And then in April and May, a large postcard. We find that if we do a variety of formats, some are sort of more eye-catching for different people, so we try and mix it up. And then for all 4 of those standard notices, they're co-branded. They're slightly customized by city and whether the customer, like the content is directed a little more at residential or non-residential customers. We're sending hard copies and emails right now. So if the customer has an email on file with PG&E, we send them an email in addition to the letter. We'll send them 4 emails. If the people have an email on file, we are probably not going to send them the postcard because that just seems like 8 notices seems like a lot.
Can you define the AMP, PIPP, DAC?
Yeah, I'll get there. So we're doing English and Spanish versions of both. There's like a 40% of households in Stockton speak Spanish in the home, so we're doing everything in English and Spanish. And then we're timing them, we're timing them according to the customer meter read. So we're sort of rolling them out in 3 batches a month for 4 months. And then, yeah, these additional notices, so there are a lot of programs that customers are on, and they're concerned that these programs won't carry over on AVA service. They do, and so we're sending special notices, just courtesy notices to these customers who are on these programs. Those are NEMs. NEM is net energy metering. It's the people who have rooftop solar. SPP is solar bill plan, which is for customers who have installed solar, like in the past year. It's a new tariff for solar. Balance payment plan is for residential customers who just want to have a fixed rate each month that PG&E will sort of like do a rolling average of your bills, so there's not too much variation. AMP is a arrearage management program, which is for customers who are in arrears, and there's an opportunity for them to pay that back. PIP is percent of income payment plan, which is a very limited plan for customers who, boy, it was a really small group of people, and they basically fixed the customer bill at a very low rate. So it doesn't matter how much energy they're using, basically, they just sort of have a fixed low payment. DAC-GT is Disadvantaged Community Green Tariff, which is, AVA offers a program called Solar Savings that gives customers 20% off. We enroll customers in that program because there are only a certain number of spots that we were allocated. And peak day pricing is for commercial customers. It's a demand response program.
I thought the DAC-GT tariffs were, the existing ones were in the existing office territory. I was surprised to see that there's one in Stockton.
I think, and this is maybe a better question for my colleague Kelly, but my recollection is that there are a certain number of spots that we got with the increase in service area. And so those customers will transfer over, and we're basically allocated that share of the statewide DAC-GT program for those customers so that we can keep them on. That's my recollection. I really should check. I'm afraid to, I should be fact checking myself here, but that's my sort of loose recollection of this.
So they were already enrolled.
I think they were all, yeah.
Hi, Dan, and team. I am
Kelly.
on the line. Hi, this is Kelly
Kelly
Brezovec.
to the rescue.
And I would love to be to the rescue, except that it was really hard for me to hear the original question. So Dan, I was able to
Yeah.
hear your response, and my ears started to burn a little bit because I heard my name, but I didn't catch the question because it's a little hard to hear in the room.
It was, sorry, it was me and the mic was not in my face.
No problem.
I was surprised to see DAC-GT for Stockton because I thought all DAC-GT customers were in like Hayward and San Leandro and Oakland for AVA DAC-GT customers.
AVA's DAC-GT customers or AVA Solar Discount, our customers are spread throughout our service territory, customers that are located within a disadvantaged community qualify, that are also CareFera qualify. And yes, as Dan said, when we expanded our territory, we were able to work with both PG&E and the Energy Commission, the CPUC, to expand the number of both megawatt hours we're able to provide and also the number of customers. So we will be taking those customers that had previously been on PG&E's program and enrolling them directly into our programs so that they are able to maintain that discount while being AVA customers.
I think I was getting confused. There was another DAC, solar GT.
You may be thinking of CSGT, which had a sort of community sponsorship element. That program was canceled by the CPUC, enrolled into the DAC-GT program.
I think the other thing is that all load serving entities were able to enroll customers in DAC-GT. And so because PG&E was serving Stockton before, PG&E also had their own DAC-GT program. So they were giving the discount to their customers. Now that their customers are coming over, as Kelly said, they're being migrated to AVA's program. So that's why there's the additional courtesy notice for those particular customers. That'll be a subset of the Stockton customers that are enrolled in that program.
Yep.
First of all, the speaker, if we can get that mic fixed a little bit, and the person that was speaking was very scratchy. Huh?
Too loud or too soft?
Yeah, needs to be adjusted. Yeah, and then secondly, what I wanted to clarify, are there any discounts for low-income folks for solar energy?
Are you talking about to install it or to if they have it already?
If they have it already. Or was that the program you were referring to?
For customers who already have solar on their roof, are you saying? No, I can't think of a program that's available for customers like that.
So let me just reframe that so I'm clear, even for myself. So for clients that want, or customers rather, that want renewable energy that are low income, then they're not, there's no additional discount for them.
I don't think so. I see Kelly raising her hand, so.
Yeah, hi, I'll jump in here and help out. So care customers that are installing solar today, like everyone else that's installing solar today, would be enrolled in the solar billing plan. And AVA does offer additional credits for care customers that are on solar billing plan. And so those would be available to customers in Stockton and Lathrop, just like the rest of our territory.
Kelly, is that a penny per kilowatt hour? Can you recall?
It is an extra penny per kilowatt hour for exports. Yes, that's correct.
So that's besides the net billing credit they might get, or is it something different?
So new installs are on solar billing plan, so it's different. It's not the net energy. It's not a net energy metering. It's the new tariff, and so those customers are receive credits for their exports, and those exports are given an additional credit as a care customer than they would have otherwise received.
Is that true for NEM customers as well?
No, that is not true for NEM customers in Stockton and Lathrop, because NEM customers are not, that's not how our NEM program works.
Okay, thank you. So just to confirm, the policy is the same in Stockton and Lathrop as it is for customers in our existing service area. Is that correct?
Yes, it is for both NEM and SBP.
Thank you. All right. Let me move on to the next slide. Yeah. Two slides.
We have somebody on the line, Davis, member Davis Harper. Can we?
Yeah, I just had a quick question while you're on the slide with the different like income support programs. A couple that folks have asked about, because that's a super common question for sure, like are REACH and LIHEAP. So I'm not sure if that's also like factored in or special courtesy notices going to those customers. But I just wanted to double confirm that if folks reach out about that those two programs aren't going to be impacted either, because they're not
Yeah,
part of the-
I'll take this one as well. So REACH and LIHEAP are both one-time programs, and so a customer might have already received, let's say, a LIHEAP discount. That's a $300 credit, so they would have received that credit either as a PG&E customer, or they would receive that in the future as an AVA customer. Same with REACH.
Awesome. They're both one time. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Thank you. So yeah, moving along, a couple slides here. These are just examples of some of the advertising that we're doing. We're sort of phasing it in 2-month themes. So right now we're doing savings are coming sort of, theme. Next month will be more oriented around welcome to AVA. And then in June and July, that's when customers will get their first bills that reflect AVA charges. And so we want to focus on customers finding the savings, understanding their bill. We're doing all of the usual advertising channels, digital display ads on the web, social media advertising, paid YouTube, paid streaming audio, Comcast TV. This is all geo-targeted so that we know we're hitting customers in those specific areas. Some print in Latino Times. We have billboards, bus ads. There's an image there of a bus with our ad on there. And if you guys are interested in that slide, you can click on that image of the hands plugging in a car, and that's a 30-second television ad that we're running. We're doing 30 and 15-second television ads in English and Spanish. And if you look carefully, you'll see some AVA staff members as the talent, let's say, in those ads. All right, next slide. We're doing a lot of outreach, one-on-one conversations are very helpful in this enrollment phase. This is a new product type that customers are not familiar with, so having a deeper level of conversation is very helpful. So you'll see us at events like the Asparagus Festival, which is a big one in Stockton. Cinco de Mayo, July 1st, that's the largest event in Lathrop all year. We'll be sponsoring that. We're sponsoring the Stockton Ports minor league baseball team, which is the AAA farm team for the A's, actually. And then we do our community sponsorships, which I think you might be familiar with. We're definitely going to publicize those a lot in this funding cycle so that nonprofits around Stockton and Lathrop are familiar with that opportunity. And then there's a little note on the bottom I didn't want to forget to say that we have hired a full-time outreach coordinator who is, born and raised in Stockton, lives in Stockton, will be working in Stockton full-time for us doing the outreach. Really happy about that. He's been great. And next slide. Is that it? Oh, I have a few more. Okay, so social media, just examples, typical stuff. Next slide. We made a website landing pages for each city, as well as a general welcome page where we can direct people for something like a bus ad where the bus might be driving across multiple cities. We're not quite sure where the customers are, so. And then we did a special welcome one for solar because we were just seeing a lot of chatter online with customers who didn't understand what happens if they have solar on the roof. Then AVA comes along. So we made a special landing page that we've been sharing out primarily in social media so that people understand. And we've sent those courtesy notices to customers who are on net energy metering with that link. And the next one. We did a press conference last week. It was great. There's a photo there from the event. We had 3 mayors Tracy, Stockton, and Lathrop. We had, vice mayor and other city council members, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and a woman who works at Rising Sun, which is a great nonprofit that has a presence there. We got lots of coverage. There's a list there of some of the TV and web coverage we got. And we made a digital press kit, so you can see all of the photos, and we did Facebook Live, so you can see the whole thing's recorded.
Is there a video of the press conference? that we
It
can
is,
see?
right now, it's just on Facebook Live, but I
Okay.
can provide the link. If you look on our Facebook page, you can find it, or it might actually be on the press kit page now, I can't remember, but I can put it there. Yeah. Next slide. And then, yes, of course, we're doing key account outreach. Juan, who's on our account services team, has joined the Chambers of Commerce and is doing some webinars and presentations. So that's just a photo of the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. They've been very supportive, especially around the 5% savings. It means a lot to businesses there and also to, school districts and other large customers. So, next slide. And then just some next steps. We're looking at our performance in terms of opt-outs, and call center contacts has been very high amount of calls. Opt-outs have been sort of where we expected them to be. I think we're at 0.5% right now, but it's very early in the process. We're adjusting the messaging, as I meant, and we're just sort of tracking what's resonating and what's not, and what comments we get on social so that we know what the common questions are. And then cataloging these lessons, because in a year from now, we'll be doing the same thing in unincorporated San Joaquin County, so learning some lessons there. I think that's the end of my deck. Yeah, so happy to answer any other remaining questions.
I think it's a very comprehensive outreach plan.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm just waiting to be recognized by someone.
Oh, yeah,
You're recognized.
yeah, I see you, I see you.
First of all, this does sound like a good rollout, and I really like the fact that you guys did a welcome solar page. I thought that was very smart.
Yeah.
I'm curious, are we expecting 5%, or what are we expecting as the opt-out? And also, are we seeing any kind of organized opposition in any of the communities that are joining?
Yeah, good question. You can join our betting pool. No, I'm just kidding. We wouldn't do that. I would say probably we're going to have a pretty decent wave of opt-outs right now, because one of the reasons that customers have opted out historically is because they don't like to be auto-enrolled in our service. So some people will just opt out for that reason, and we'll get a spike right now as everyone gets their enrollment letters and sees the ads. And maybe that'll get us to, let's say, 5%. I'm just putting a number out there based on sort of past performance. And I think maybe the city of Tracy is probably our best indicator, because they're also in San Joaquin. It's the closest city. We had that initial spike, and then things will sort of plateau a bit. And then this summer, a month after the first heat wave, we'll have our second spike in opt-outs, because that's when customers will get the largest electric bill they've ever gotten,
And
because
they'll blame
rates
us,
just
right?
keep
Yeah,
going
yeah.
up. They'll open the bill, they'll see Ava Community Energy, and they'll say, I don't know these people, and I don't know why they are on my bill, and they'll opt out. So that's why we sort of orient our marketing around understanding your bill. When the sort of May, June, July hits, we'll really focus on people understanding that this is not a duplicate charge, it is a new charge, but it replaces what they would have paid PG&E. And I'm hoping we stay under 10%. That's kind of where my goals are. I think it'll be between 5 and 10% on opt-out rate there.
Sorry, one more follow-up
Yeah.
question on that. So the opt-out, they can do it through the postcard, or they can call, or they can go online?
Yeah, they can. The most common ways are online and by calling. There is an email, but they ultimately have to provide their PG&E account number to opt out. So
And question on that, because I hadn't thought about the wave of opt-outs when they get their summer bill.
Yeah.
I get it as soon as you said it. When they go to, choose to opt out, which is their choice,
Yeah.
is there going to be anything that they see right before they click the button that says PG&E's rates are this, showing that our PV rates are lower? So they at least have like one last second to say, oh, I'm not saving any money by opting out?
Yeah, I like your thinking.
The bar
and,
chart,
What's that?
the bar chart that was in Howard, the CEO's email that showed, maybe it's your bar chart, Mickey, that showed the, however many percent that PG&E rates have increased
Oh,
since
oh, yeah, yeah,
2019
yeah,
versus
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And just a picture, that was a great
Yeah,
picture.
usually what we do is we drive people to a sort of interim page, which shows their options. And one of them is, choose PG&E or return to PG&E, or I can't remember the language exactly. But one of them is, save 5%, and that is Bright Choice. And so they're sort of presented with a very basic, like Renewable 100, PG&E, and Bright Choice. And this is the value proposition of each of those options before they select PG&E. We need to make the opt-out process easy. That's our, objective, so.
These customers will be migrated to the Bright Choice program?
Yes, they're all, Lathrop and Stockton City Council selected Bright Choice as the default plan for everyone.
Those options on the rates, are they tied to the individual customer's bills?
So
could you calculate your last month bill, the one you're freaking out about? Here's what it is under AVA. If you'd stayed with PG&E, it would be $25 higher.
we haven't done that. We just give an example bill. And, for customers in Stockton or Lathrop, it's going to be about $5 a month savings for the average residential customer, which is nice, but it's not a world-changing difference. It's a nice little bit of savings.
And it's less than the difference between winter and heat wave bills.
I mean, in the summer, they will be saving more, but they will be spending more. So it's hard to make that compelling. Yeah.
Is there any point at which the bill goes high enough? Is there some point at which the bill is high enough, say during the summer, that they would then qualify for the CARE program where they didn't before? And is there a way to let them know about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So CARE is an income eligibility requirement. So
Understood.
It's
Okay,
separate. Yeah, so it doesn't, they
Doesn't
don't,
have to do-
yeah, they're not looking at your bill, but we have done a couple of outreach campaigns, having our data team analyze what we know about customers, and for customers who are, we know who is on CARE and who is not. And so if there are customers who are not on CARE, but looking at what we know about them, what zip code or census tract or whatever they're in, those sorts of things, we have done letter and email campaigns to them saying, if we see that you're not on CARE and you may be eligible, apply here. And those campaigns have done quite well.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Who enrolls people into CARE? Is it PG&E or do you?
Yeah, PG&E is the sole administrator for our customers. So when we do those campaigns, it's actually a little hard to track because we can't enroll those customers ourselves. We have to look at the records months down the road and see if the customers who we reached out to then later applied to CARE. Yeah.
So when they opt out, are they opting out from 100% renewables to the 5% less, or are they opting out totally?
For customers in Stockton and Lathrop, their starting point is the 5% savings on Bright Choice. And then they can choose to opt up to Renewable 100, which costs more, or they can opt to return to PG&E, and then they'll pay, which costs more. So there are two options, cost more than Bright Choice.
So just a question, don't we need in the summer to send something out proactively saying, you may see that your bill is going up, that's because of use. If you want it to be cheaper, see if you qualify for CARE, but otherwise, we're cheaper than PG&E.
That's basically it. Bright Choice is their cheapest option for grid-provided electricity. And yeah, I think we're going to have to push that message that
we can be proactive about that toward the summer.
Yes, and I think your point about encouraging customers to apply for CARE is good. We've been trying to find the best ways to inform customers who aren't on CARE that they might be eligible.
Okay, Cynthia, did you have a question?
Yeah, what I wanted to, remind me if somebody, opts out initially and they read our literature and then decide they want to, come to Ava.
Yeah.
Can you remind me what the process is, please?
I can, and I'm looking at Kelly's picture, and she can tell me if I'm getting this correct. But
Okay.
my recollection is that if a customer opts out within 60 days, yes, she's nodding, of their enrollment date, then it's as if they were never on our service, and they can kind of rejoin whenever they want. So if they opt out, you know, in this current time frame through May, generally, then they can just return whenever. If a customer takes service, like they don't take any action and they get automatically enrolled in April, and then they're served by us for 2 months, and then they opt out, then they're going to have to wait a year to come back. And this is PG&E policy.
And this is what
It's
now?
PG&E's policy, this policy. There's nothing we can do to, you know, mitigate that.
Thank you.
I see.
Chair, if I
Al.
may, I just
Al.
wanted to, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to propose a time check since we've got a couple of other very meaty items still to go.
We do have one online, Shiva Swaminathan has a question.
Yes, it'll just to congratulate Dan and the team of, seems like a great outreach program, which is good. I had one question. The 5% discount, is that part of the outreach effort? Is 5% advertised as a benefit for participation, or is it more of a soft sell?
That was a little choppy. Are you saying, are we like leading with that messaging? Was that the question?
Correct.
Referring to the 5% less cost if they were at Ava versus PG&E. Is that right?
Yes, but that was one of the main messages in the outreach.
Got you. Yeah, I would say it is the primary message that, you know, when we're sending the enrollment notice on the envelope, it says, you know, you're going to have low, you know, savings now. And like in the email subject line, it references savings. We have just learned from surveying customers that especially for that audience, that savings is the primary benefit that they'll see.
I had a second question. The solar buyback SBP program, we provide a premium, a penny more for buyback compared to PG&E, is that correct? And what is the buyback rate? What is the buyback rate itself?
The buyback rate, yeah, the buyback rate varies based on the time of day and the month of the year. We provide an extra bonus for care customers and then another small bonus credit for customers that generate between the hours of 3 and 8 p.m. So all SBP customers would be eligible for either the Care Fair bonus or the Ava peak hours export bonus credit. But you can find those energy export credit rates online. PG&E has that as a spreadsheet on their website. It's also linked from avaenergy.org/SBP.
Very good. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Well, thank you. Do you have any other further questions, Shiva? Because your hand's still raised.
I've lowered it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And are there any other questions? We'd like to move on to the next item. No other questions?
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 6, C6, critical. Yes. Pardon me?
We should take public comment.
Are there any public comments? Questions? Online, any public questions? Any comments?
There are no hands raised. It's done.
Great, thank you. So we will move on at this point to item C6, critical municipal facilities update, which is a board informational item. Thank you very much, Ann. And JP.
Great, thank you very much. My name is JP Ross, Vice President of Local Development at AVA, and am here tonight to present on an informational item to the board tomorrow night and to the CAC tonight on our Critical Municipal Facilities Resilience Program. Next slide, Adrian. So we'll talk about the program and the summary. We've recently been made aware of some risks to executing this program. We've been thinking through some mitigation potential to those risks, and then we'll be walking through the options as we're thinking about them now. Next slide. So as an overview, AVA has been working with a renewable energy developer, Greenbridge Energy. They were selected through a public solicitation process to design, construct, and operate about 30 resilience projects across 6 participating cities. And that will be done through a power purchase agreement. The portfolios to each city are designed to deliver energy savings, so bill savings, over the term of the power purchase agreement. So there's financial savings as well as resiliency in the form of battery storage and solar. So the facilities can operate during a power outage or some type of climate emergency. We've been working hard towards executing the master power purchase agreement with Greenbridge, where AVA would buy the electricity output from these assets, and then the PPA with our cities, where we would sell that power and resilience onto our cities. And in recognition of a tight timeline for delivering net metering 2.0 savings and value to the cities, we went ahead and signed a professional services agreement with Gridscape, which is a Fremont resilience developer, to submit net metering 2.0 applications back in April of 23, so that we could secure a spot in the queue, if you will, for NEM 2. But that means that there's a 3-year window to get those projects installed and inspected by the cities, and that expires in April of 2026. So we have a rapidly shortening timeline, about 14 months left to get these projects installed. This is a traditionally very complicated sector, kind of smaller solar projects and now solar and storage projects, traditionally hard to finance. And we found this to be the case ourselves as we've gone out to market to try to find a developer and asset owner to partner with on these projects. And part of what we were bringing to the cities and have been bringing to the cities is kind of AVA's procurement experience, as well as the volume of aggregating up quite a few projects into a portfolio of substantial enough size that an asset owner would want to engage in developing and owning those assets. So the table on the right is a description of the different cities as they now stand, so 6 participating cities. We have the total number of sites at 20, and then the second number in that second column there is the number of net metering 2 sites. So we have both NEM 2 and NEM 3 sites that we would be planning to develop, as well as the total cumulative solar, just under 5 megawatts of solar, as well as battery kilowatt hours. It's about 8 megawatt hours batteries. And then the bill savings numbers column on the right. So over the term of the 25-year power purchase agreement, we'd be delivering about between 5 and 15% bill savings to the cities. And those are really variable based on the complexity of the jobs, which have different costings, as well as the type of rate that the different facilities are on, which can vary and have different impacts on the bill savings. So we've been really driving towards getting this across the line, and the types of facilities that these would be installed on include libraries, senior centers, community centers, city halls, police stations, corporation yards, service centers. So a variety of different municipal sites that are providing services to their respective communities. So that's what we've been working on, and we've brought a board item and gotten approval from the board to execute these power purchase agreements in past meetings. Next slide, please. So this is a bit of an eye chart, so I'll be going through it, and I'll use my own glasses and my own slide here. So the couple things that we've identified that are bring some more challenges to getting this delivered. A lot of it stems from the timeline associated with net metering 2.0. So a lot of the savings, energy savings for these sites are driven by the systems that we have successfully requested net metering 2.0 status for. So that delivers better savings for our customers because the cost of the solar power purchase agreement is lower than the cost of the electricity bills that they'd otherwise be paying. They also, the solar and battery can reduce demand charges, which is another element of the bill. And we'd be bringing in, or the Green Bridge or an asset owner would be bringing in the federal investment tax credit, which is a federal program that reduces the cost by providing a tax credit. We also have allocated some incentives to this in past meetings. We did get a couple of grants through federal appropriations last year that we've been pursuing to the tune of $2 million. But the net metering savings are really forcing the completion of these systems by April 15th, 2026. So getting this across the line in that timely fashion is proving to be a challenge. And the risk of getting this across the line has really increased significantly over the last several months with the transition to the new administration. And that's really raised a lot of uncertainty in the market. So a couple examples of those are some of the tariffs that are coming into place. So the China, Canada, Mexico tariffs have been identified. The Mexican and Canadian tariffs have been postponed, but they're looming out there. And a lot of the equipment for solar and battery projects does come from China, and it's hard to find substitution equipment for some of that. So that's some risk out there, and we don't really know when those tariffs will actually come into place or how they will change over time. So that adds some uncertainty. There's also a lot of steel and aluminum that is used in the racking of these systems, and so the steel and aluminum tariffs, even though we are looking to source that equipment from American manufacturers, if they're importing their raw materials from overseas, then the cost impact there will be felt by our cities. And there's just a considerable amount of uncertainty that this causes in the deal as it's structured, and that uncertainty gets passed down to us or the cities. Similarly, the federal investment tax credit has been raised as something that the Trump administration is trying to overturn. Actually, issued an executive order eliminating the tax credit, but that's not possible. You can't overrule legislation with an executive order, as much as the administration is trying to do that. But there's still risk of legislation to overturn the Inflation Reduction Act, where this tax credit was extended. So we're hopeful, and there is Republican support for some of the renewable tax credits, but there's a severely anti-renewable focus coming from the new White House, and the fact is that we can't actually get these tax credits until these systems are installed. So the timeliness here again presents some uncertainty, because it's 14 months or so before we can get these systems installed, and then it takes months after that to actually go and get the tax credits. So that gives the administration and the new Congress considerable time to overturn the tax credit. So we certainly hope that doesn't happen, but there's risk there, and that's making our counterparties nervous. We did get the $2 million in federal earmarks. We've We're not certain we're going to be able to get those grants. Those have been uncertain for a while, but even phone calls that we've had set up with some of the DOE representatives have been unceremoniously canceled and we're trying to get those conversations going again. And so, you know, that the risk to the tax credits is definitely presenting some challenges. If we go to the next slide. So, you know, the schedule itself is, as I mentioned, pretty tight, and through the agreement that we've been negotiating, there's termination rights and liquidated damages that we put in place in our contracts like these that are really meant to enforce the schedule that we agree to with our counterparties. So they're required to install these systems by a particular time, and if they don't get those systems installed, then we have, you know, financial damages and potentially even termination rights, so that so our cities don't get stuck paying for a solar system under net metering 3.0, which is less financially advantageous when they had anticipated getting savings from it under NEM 2.0. So there's some financial risk there to the cities that we're trying to mitigate through good kind of contract adherence. And the financial risk around tariffs and investment tax credit is one thing. There's other risks around kind of just equipment deliveries. So, you know, during COVID, there was a lot of supply chain challenges. When there's lots of activity, you know, in tariffs and otherwise at the border and with customs, that can just slow down the delivery of equipment. And so the schedule can be impacted by that. Another issue that we've identified from a labor perspective is we are not the only party that's trying to deliver solar systems to achieve the net metering 2.0 deadline. There are other parties out there who have, you know, successful interconnection applications. And so the potential for labor to get backed up in this time frame where multiple parties are going out to get it at the same time is something that we're keeping our eyes on. And, you know, we have been working with Gridscape to identify, you know, qualified union affiliated labor to do this work. As part of this work, it has required union labor as to do the installations. So we're, you know, monitoring the subcontractors that they've been talking to, but it's you know, the later this goes, the more stacked up all the work is going to be towards the end of the year. And you know, the other issue is just the overall uncertainty has caused Greenbridge, our counterparty, to kind of pause their activity on this work at this point in time because of the nature of all the uncertainty that we've just detailed. So that leaves us thinking about what our options are. So if we go to the next slide, the risk mitigations that we've identified are listed here. So one is we can go to PG&E and ask them to extend the deadline in light of federal uncertainty and some of the things that are hitting the market right now. That regulation, the 36-month window, is within the PUC ruling about that created the net metering 2.0 to net metering 3.0 shift. And we've asked PG&E about this. They're not going to give us any kind of a blanket extension at this point in time. They can give extensions for PG&E caused delays, but they can't just give us an extension because we're asking for it.
Will you be contacting the PUC about it?
We have talked to the trade association, and the timeliness of opening a previous decision that's a long process to reopen a decision that's been made by the PUC. It would also be reopening the entire net metering decision around NEM 2 to NEM 3, which has a lot of other things in it. So that's not really advised, at least by the trade association. It also, the timing of it doesn't help us. That takes months, if not years, to reopen a decision and come to a new conclusion. So no, we haven't. We've read the regulation, but the concept of kind of asking the PUC to overturn this for us is not really a viable pathway. CALSA, the California Solar and Storage Association. It's the main lobbying group for the solar industry in Sacramento.
Okay, in the interest of time, JP, we'd like to kind of wrap this up by 7:30.
Okay, so, well then, so we've looked at a variety of risk mitigation options or topics. And so why don't we go to our next slide? Yeah, that's one of them. Downsize the portfolio. There's a variety here. Downsize the portfolio, use domestic equipment. Okay. Yes, definitely downsizing the portfolio is one of the things that we're discussing, and it's actually comes up on the next slide. So options that we've really kind of talked more about, we can move forward with Greenbridge and Gridscape on the current portfolio, but sorry, Adrian, one more slide. But revise the terms to kind of reduce the risk to our counterparties and take more risk onto AVA. Option 2, downsize the portfolio and work with the existing counterparties to try to deliver kind of a smaller, faster portfolio of projects that could be installed more easily. Some of the projects are bigger, more complicated, some are simpler. We could downsize the portfolio and actually move Greenbridge, the asset owner, out of the equation and own assets ourselves, which takes on some ownership, could reduce some costs, but takes on some risk for AVA. We could downsize the portfolio and move on from both Greenbridge and Gridscape by issuing a new public works solicitation with AVA as the owner to bring in a new developer. Or we could kind of abandon NEM 2 projects, which are where the schedule is really tight, and focus on net metering 3.0 projects, recognizing there's a reduction in savings to the cities. Or we have an upcoming, resilience hub and solar incentive program. We could kind of cease our activities to help the cities deliver resilience for their facilities and put more dollars into incentives and kind of let the cities, apply for those incentives and deliver and develop their own projects. So those are the options that we've been considering. And when we look at those options and think about what our next steps are, if we go to the next slide, please. We're really at a critical juncture with this, where we need to make some quick decisions in order, if we're going to continue working to deliver these cities some NEM 2 projects. We need to kind of think about what the cost savings impacts are of losing NEM 2 status, and recognizing that Greenbridge is right now pausing this work to reassess the risk and ability to moving forward. We're kind of really working hard now with my team and others within the agency to think about downsizing this portfolio and in order to really de-risk the time frame, and selecting a subset of the higher margin, higher savings, more straightforward construction projects. And then, diligencing kind of AVA owning these assets. It adds some flexibility that our financing counterparty has not exhibited, but adds some complexity, meaning AVA would own these assets, need to understand kind of how we could secure engineering, procurement, and construction services from workforce, and owning these assets for a 25-year period, as opposed to having an asset owner do that, which is their experience. And then we have to really figure out if we're taking on the ownership of those assets, what's the financial risk to either us or our cities of missing these deadlines, or the imposition of tariffs, or potentially losing the investment tax credit. And so that's what we've been spending our time doing over the last 96 hours and 4 or 5 days. It's really end of last week where we got this notification. So we've been really looking to pivot and determine what our path forward is. So looking forward to hearing what the CAC has to say tonight and the board tomorrow to provide a little direction on where you think we should go with this.
Bernie?
Thank you for the presentation. And
Your,
thanks for the presentation, and understand all the uncertainty you're dealing with. And I don't think any of that uncertainty is going to clear up in the next month or two, right? I mean, we're looking at months, best case scenario, months, probably years. I'll throw out that I'm interested in the benefits of owning the project, even though that can increase costs went up. But I'm wondering, sorry, by removing a middleman, is there just like a sort of a boilerplate number of 6%, 11%, or some kind of window of what we think it would save us? I mean, forget about the risk for a moment, but of ownership as opposed to, is there a general boilerplate percentage that you use? And
Yeah, there's not a, so let's see, the general boilerplate is going to be whatever their cost of capital is. So in this scenario, AVA would be bringing local development dollars, cash to the table to develop these projects. Whether or not we charge interest on that, like a debt level interest versus an equity level kind of return, you'd expect the returns on their capital to be in the low double digits. It's kind of where we see the yield on their capital. So, there's some savings there. It does mean that, we're taking on that risk, right?
Sure.
Of those projects either not performing, or the city's not paying. We think the cities are going to pay, like not paying for energy being delivered is a low risk. But we do think that there could be some cost savings, and that's one of the things that we're modeling right now.
a couple follow-up questions on this. So also, I don't know the contracts for this, and I'm thinking not only for these muni facilities, but for other projects moving forward of ownership by AVA. Generally, I mean, if we own it, we own it for all time, right? Or for a minimum of 25 years. Are the contracts for here, did I hear you say 25 years, or what was the life?
Yeah, the PPAs that we've been negotiating are 25 years.
25 years, okay. Then just a random question, I know we're gonna be working on this for months, but I mean, like CalPERS does not want to put its money in, uncertain places, but everything's uncertain now. And CalPERS there's a big green movement in CalPERS right now. That's one fund. Are we talking to, I don't know about CalSTRS, but are we talking to CalPERS at this point?
Yeah, we're not talking to debt or equity providers right now. This would be AVA jumps in with dollars that we have. If we had operating assets, we could always refinance those. We could go finance them with debt at a later time, but that's a long conversation that we don't have time for. So we would have to be ready to put some dollars that AVA has in reserves or in the local, not in reserves, in the local development budget towards this right now. And then we could look at ways to kind of refinance that, but that's a longer standing question.
And then, well, this is explicitly about the muni, program, but we're going to be dealing with this on everything moving forward. Again, early days, I understand, but is CalCCA, are we looking not only for like AVA's looking what it can do with its budgets if it goes ownership route? Does CalCCA talking about maybe an aggregate of the CCAs working together for the next 4 years to try to?
I don't know. That's not my area of expertise as far as CalCA goes.
Okay.
Or sorry, CalCCA goes.
Okay, thank you. One last question. Just on this is like our CEA had looked at owning offshore wind development. They even put like an unbidden bid in on that. So you're trying to deal with this right now, I understand, but I'll just throw it again, is ownership I think and development by us is a wonderful thing when we can do it. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, I'd like to ask Davis to have his hand raised. Davis, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. You have some wild trade-offs that you were thinking through at the moment. Really, really appreciated it. I was hoping to learn a little bit more about a couple of things that you'd mentioned, like what it means functionally, or what it would mean functionally to move the portfolio and funding into the Resilience Hub incentives was question one, and then was hoping to learn a little bit more about the concept of a labor training program and what the kind of early concept of a proposal is for that.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat your first question? I missed that.
Yeah, just trying to understand a little bit more about what it means functionally to potentially move this portfolio into Resilient Hub incentives.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So the board we've allocated about $7 million to the CMF portfolio, and some of those dollars we had proposed would be in incentives, similar to the incentives that will be made available in the upcoming Resilience Hub program. So one option here is AVA would step back from helping our cities develop these assets and basically put those dollars just into incentives. And then the cities, if they want to develop a resilience hub, they can go apply for the incentives kind of on their own. But AVA wouldn't be doing the development work, the design work, the identification of, an asset owner or an EPC, a contractor to develop the work. We just let the city go do that on their own. So that is one option that we've explored when we talked with staff late last week about, these developments. The response we got from a good number of staff was that would be really hard for the cities to do on their own. Like, that's why they've engaged with us, is for us to help them through that process. So that's an option, but not necessarily a good option. We're making decisions between a bunch of not very good options right now. So does that answer your first question?
Totally does. Thank you.
Okay. And then the labor training, this is something, we have been working with organized labor, the Alameda Building Trades Commission and IBW and folks like that. We don't exactly know what this looks like. I have a call out to somebody at IBW to discuss it. And so to the point of we have a concern about securing sufficient labor in a time where this particular expertise of installing solar is going to be in high demand. Like, what would it look like for AVA to play a role in securing that labor? And I don't know what that looks like, to be honest. That's something that we need to kind of talk to the organized labor folks about, just so that, the jobs that we're trying to do don't get squeezed out in favor of other jobs. So that's what that would look like.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the presentation also. It was terrific. But I have some questions as we talked about Greenbridge. I don't know them, I have nothing against them, but they seem fairly small compared to some of the solar developers out there, and not as well financed, so that it's harder for them to take risks. And sometimes going with larger players means that they're more able to take risk because it's a smaller part of their portfolio. Which then got me to thinking about what's the trade-off between investing in this versus more larger scale green energy, where lots of people are still developing, 200, 500 megawatt projects and doing it at risk with their domestic product and all the rest of it guaranteed for a couple of years because they saw some of this coming. So I'm just trying to figure out whether, because originally I was into either ownership or cutting down the portfolio to reduce risk, but I'm wondering whether we're making it, these projects are so small that the risk is difficult to cover and the players involved can't absorb that risk. Whereas if we had larger players with PPAs for a lot more money, they might be able to incorporate this into their cost models.
Yeah, so, I think, so Greenbridge has about 250 million under management right now in solar projects and another $750 million in the pipeline. So I wouldn't say that they're small, but there's certainly bigger players out there, NextEra, Macquarie, and otherwise.
Well, and others that you're now doing business with, but 250 million is not very much.
Okay, so yeah, and so we issued this solicitation twice over previous couple of years.
Right.
And, we did get some of the larger players to look at it, and then they didn't submit follow-on bids. And so to the tune of NextEra and Macquarie were a couple that were on our initial short list. And as we tried to progress them through the bid evaluation process, they decided not to bid. And so that was our experience with bidding this out and having, some of the larger and smaller players actually evaluate whether or not they wanted to own these assets.
No, what I'm saying is a little different. I don't think they would bid for these smaller things. It's too much headache for too little return.
Yes.
From their point of view. They
For the
can split
big,
this-
for the big
same-
partner, yes.
For the big guys. But that's not just NextEra, it's Intersect, it's Clearway. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that you do business with now who aren't the size of NextEra because they're the biggest. but who are still doing, they've got, 30 gigawatts under in the pipeline or more, and they have that many in operation sometimes. And what I'm saying is that they would want to bid just on bring Ava more energy, period, on the larger scale, which isn't the same kind of savings that we're getting from these littler things, but it might be more doable in terms of their shouldering the risk. Because there's so much uncertainty right now in terms of tariffs and all the other craziness that's going on, that I think without that cushion of a larger project, it will be difficult to get people to shoulder that risk. So I'm just saying it may be that these smaller projects aren't as feasible right now as doing things in larger bunches where there's more cushion.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I think when we evaluate the amount of time, legal and otherwise, that we've spent on this single small portfolio of projects, we knew that going into it. This is a historically challenging sector. I mean, Clearway and Grids and Intersect and other utility scale developers, they don't have a DG side of their business, so that's not something that they're going to be interested in contemplating.
No, we don't have the DG players are out there right now are not what we might like.
Yeah, it's a historically, the commercial industrial DG market is historically challenging to finance, but this is mush market, so it's better counterparty risk.
We're finding some community solar at 5-10 megawatts now, but that's still a lot larger than.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering whether we need to shift focus, at least right now, where we don't have external support in terms of government policy and so on. So
I'm kind of seeing that. I think that some local governments have spoken up and said, we're still doing this. There's a lot of interest in renewables still, despite what the leadership the federal leadership has been. And I do think that it's going to take some time for if there is any kind of switch back on the 30% tax credits, it's going to take some time for them to reverse that. And I would imagine that 2025 would still include the credits. I mean, they'd have to push it through legislation, and they have a very slim majority. So I mean, unless there's a catastrophic, which is going to pretty much upend everything anyway. I think that maybe we can pull in a little bit and feel it out so that we can kind of grab what can be grabbed, and then just pull in as well, like Peter says, to do our own stuff and build our own little wall of security. But anybody, I'd like to really.
I'd like to.
Cynthia can speak.
I want to know whether you have any personal preference, or the staff has any personal preference given these options, please.
Yeah, so what we're focused on is kind of identifying the pathways that have a realistic chance of delivering at least some number of projects by the NEM2 deadline of April of 2026. So there's a few projects that have very specialized electrical equipment, so it takes a long time to kind of custom assemble and deliver that gear. So those are projects that we'd probably put aside for the moment, because they're just extra complicated and they have a longer delivery time frame. And so identifying projects that have a shorter construction window, and projects that have kind of higher margin, higher savings for the cities, as well as projects that have the biggest differential between the savings in NEM2 and the loss in NEM3. So like, what's the biggest impact of maintaining in NEM2? And then, we're rapidly, trying to evaluate what does ownership of these assets look like, and what would we have to build internally as a staff, either staffing capabilities or contracted external resources, because, we're not in the business right now of owning assets for 25 years. So there's an asset management function right there. There's also, if we're not engaged in a power purchase agreement for delivery of services, then we have to take that on. And so we have to contemplate what are the responsibilities that we have to take on that we were planning on outsourcing.
Well, then, let me just follow this up. So given what you said, it would seem to me that you would want to have, you would want to select the projects that you can reasonably think that you can complete. And I guess that, and if we're not prepared immediately to staff up to project manage those, some of those, I guess we'd have to select the larger projects, as Peter said earlier, and I guess it would seem that we would have to have some collaboration with Greenbridge or another vendor. But they've paused, so I guess you'd have to look for another vendor.
We would definitely have to look for another party to develop and install the projects. If Ava is going to own the projects, where we're not outsourcing ownership to an asset owner, then we would own those projects, and we would contract with an EPC, engineering, procurement, construction company, to basically build those projects and then sell them to us, and then we own them and sell the output to the city. So that's one of the ownership models that we're contemplating, because going back out and issuing another solicitation to find another asset owner when we've already done that twice and come up unsuccessful, it doesn't really make sense to do it a third time. And the time involved with issuing that solicitation would consume 2 to 3 months to do that, to try to find another asset.
So I guess you would have to look at Ava's ability to staff up appropriately.
That's right. That's one of the things. Yes.
And, I mean, that would be my preference, hearing your presentation, but I don't know if that's in the realm of possibility.
Certainly one of the things that we're evaluating, yeah.
Okay, and we have Shiva, who's been waiting patiently. Thank you, Shiva.
Sure, JP. This seemed like a good portfolio of projects, but we are in a situation now we have to make hard choices. So my question is, we budgeted $7 million. If we were to cherry pick the most profitable ones, least uncertain ones, what would the project cost be? What's the capital outlay required compared to $7 million? And what's the net benefit the customers, the cities would enjoy as metrics? Those are the 3 metrics I can see: the capital cost, the net savings. 2 metrics that we can compare it with. Is it worth taking on that additional portfolio for Ava?
Yeah. So we've identified kind of two projects from each of the cities. So about 12 projects that we perceive to be kind of the simpler projects to install. And that's about a megawatt of PV and a couple megawatt hours of batteries. So it's probably about $8 million in EPC. I don't have the savings of those particular projects at the top of my mind, but we're basically looking at that kind of a matrix. What are the easiest projects and what are the savings that they deliver? And then what is the risk if some of those projects miss the NEM 2 deadline, because that's potential coverage that we may need to bring to bear in the form of dollars to kind of make up those lost savings. So that's how we're kind of cutting the different portfolios to identify what's the kind of the best fit, lowest risk portfolio that could be developed. That said, you still need to have confidence that we can do all the things we need to do, like hire an EPC to do this work and sign a contract with them with
sufficient terms that protect us and the cities to actually deliver those projects and get them permitted and do all the other steps before you actually get them substantially complete.
Right. So 8 million, you talked about a 7 million budget from AVA to begin with. What is that part of the 8 million or?
Well, yeah, how we allocate budget to this is really another question, right? Right now, this is an informational item to get some feedback like this about other ways that we may want to look at this. We would be coming back to the board with an action item, in next month to think about how we'd allocate budget to it. So right now we have $7 million that we'd allocated to this program. We may be limited by that 7 million, or we may get authorization to spend more if we were to pursue this strategy. But yeah.
So the 7 million plus 8 million, and 8 million for EPC, would the 7 million come out, 7 million fund 8 million EPC? Would that?
Yes, hypothetically, you could allocate the 7 million that's been allocated for CMF, which was going towards potentially incentives and other things towards the development of these assets. And you would recover that over time, right? That's that's EPC that you're developing, and then you're recovering through PPA payments from the cities to repay that initial outlay.
Right. So it seems, just my parting thought is, seems like if AVA wants to get into the business of owning assets, this may be a baby step, but philosophically, this is a too small a project to take it on if you're not going to be in the business of doing this year after year or for other projects as well. So that's my input.
Yeah, appreciate that if you're going to put a lot of energy into building a capacity, you'd want that to be repeatable. So it's not a one-off activity that then creates a 25-year program that needs to be serviced.
Right.
All right, thank you. Ernie.
For these 12 projects that you're looking at as being the easiest, best case scenario, realistic, but best case, like what are we looking around the turnaround for you to do what you have to do? And still get, so you're saying you believe it's still feasible if the board decides to go the ownership route, that staff will be able to turn this around and what needs to be done before the 2.0 expires?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that is the activity that we are undertaking at this moment, is understanding, is there a schedule that we can still deliver, and what are the steps that we would need to take in order to get confidence that we could deliver that. So we're not in a position right now to propose that's what we should do. We're letting you all know and want to let the board know that those are the steps that we're undertaking right now. We were informed late last week that the developer was stepping back from this, so that's what we've been doing over the last number of days, is to understand, is that realistic for us to take on? Because there's a lot that we'd be taking on in a very short period of time, which always means significant risk.
This is a whole lot of stress and complexity thrown into your lap. But nothing you've seen so far.
Oh, you're going to need your microphone, I think.
Nothing you've seen so far implies that there's no way we can possibly do it before NEM 2.0 expires. You're still exploring it, you're studying it. So that's great news, just that there's not a hard no already. And just one last comment is, if this, personally, I want ownership by AVA of all kinds of projects moving forward. This seems to me would be a great training exercise to own and develop these in-house for the larger projects and the future numerous projects.
Amazing. I really like that, the way you put it. I just wanted to just kind of put in a couple cents here, my own 2 cents. I would really like it if you guys could solicit the cities and ask for their input and what they would like to participate, how they would like to participate. So, soliciting cities themselves, you know, Berkeley and San Leandro and Hayward and everybody else who's already engaged. And if they're not interested, you know, then the other cities that are interested, we could focus on them. The other thing is the criteria for the projects. If you could build a good stable or a good sense criteria for selecting projects and understanding those benefits, which solar and battery are always beneficial. I think that over the long run, I'm so glad I installed solar, and I would never go back. So, you know, it's a great investment. And so I do think that you can't lose. And I like what Ernie is saying about us pulling in and becoming stronger ourselves and learning how to do this ourselves.
Yeah, we gave this presentation to the city staff of all the cities we've been working with for the last years on this on Friday, to let them know that we were going to be talking to their electeds on Wednesday, you know, about the crossroads that we're at. So as I mentioned, when we discussed this with staff and showed them the options, you know, they indicated that if we were to just, you know, transition this into just an incentive, they would have a hard time developing these projects on their own. So that was some of the feedback we got. You know, every city is not the same as every other city. So some cities have more capability to deliver this, and many of the cities have a few solar projects at least. So there was, at least from that discussion, you know, a desire for us to continue on this path, which is the same feedback we're getting from you all and the same bit of work that we've all been heavily engaged in. You know, it's been an all-consuming task, you know, for a while now, and certainly with this latest news, trying to understand how we can deliver on something that we've been working on, you know, for years now.
Very good, thank you. And I think our last question would be Joe.
Well, this is sort of back to the basics. What is NEM 2.0 and why is it so much more advantageous? And do we have to follow it, or can we, as AVA, charge something else? Or, you know, it's sort of like, I'm confused why NEM 2.0 is such a big thing. And would it make sense to do it differently, like set these facilities up instead of as net energy metering, as feed-in tariffs, and, you know, credit the cities for some fraction of the power and some rent on their facilities where AVA owns the plant. And their bill savings would be neutral because they'd be spending the same money to buy electricity, but they'd be getting income from the solar facility from AVA, and then AVA would have control of these facilities to, you know, how much to put onto the grid when, how much to put into batteries to save when it's more expensive for AVA to buy the power from the grid. You know, I just don't understand why we're trying to shoehorn into NEM 2.0 and where does the advantage come?
Yeah, so NEM 2.0 credits any exports at retail rates for both the transmission and distribution, which is like 60% of the bill, PG&E is part of the bill, and the generation, which is less than 40% of the bill, which is AVA's part of the bill. So we don't have control over NEM 2.0 on the transmission and distribution side, and we have, you know, the PUC has made that ruling. That's the law of the land. Take it or leave it, like it or not. You know, NEM 2.0 is over. And AVA has instituted our solar billing plan, which has some benefits, you know, over PG&E's plan. But, you know, there's
better kind of retail savings to the customer under NEM 2.0. I think to the point of, should we revise the net metering or AVA's solar billing plan to recover all those dollars? That's a much bigger conversation than we certainly have time for in the next 6 weeks when we have to make a decision on what we're doing right now with these projects. And the incentive dollars that we have, at the end of the day, it's money, right? Money is, whether you're reconstituting NEM 2.0 or whether you're providing incentives for these particular facilities, it's dollars, they're very fungible. So at the end of the day, are you presenting a value proposition to your participating customers that makes them want to engage? We have a power purchase agreement with 6 cities that we're basically ready to put pen to paper on. If we were to do a lot of adjustment to that, it would take months to renegotiate the agreement for some kind of a feed-in tariff. So I just, like, as we are schedule constrained, the amount of disruption and other things that we try to throw out that are super creative, we just don't have time for that. So we have to kind of ride the horse that we're on and figure out if we can get it across the finish line, as opposed to like blowing it all up with a different idea that we just don't have time for that.
Yeah, great. I think we need to close this out. Do we have any other comments for?
So that last one, I'm not gonna make a motion, sorry, I'm not gonna make a motion because I don't think we have consensus yet, and I can tell that people will wanna move on. But I would just ask the chair to report to the board that what I heard was strong support for the agency owning the projects that it can. Was it unanimous? We didn't vote on it?
Perhaps we can take a vote on that, because I do not hear any counter to that. So if we do want, Peter.
Yeah, I support consideration of ownership, but I also support downsizing to limit risk, but still going with the same contractor or a different one. I think I often have strong feelings about this, no matter what staff says, but on this one, I think staff is really looking into it. And while I agree that ownership is one course and could save some money, but increase risk, I'd like to let staff continue to think about this.
Yeah, and I don't think we should go for a vote,
I don't
because
have
we
enough
really haven't
information to
discussed
vote.
this. So,
I like ownership generally.
yeah, we can mention it in the chair report that there's some support for taking ownership but then we realize that it's a very complex issue that we can only make suggestions on. And so that's what we've done. And I'll summarize that in the notes today for Ed to deliver tomorrow.
I just want to mention ownership is a big decision. I think if we were to take ownership on a broader scale, whether we provide support to it or not, I think has to be a standalone topic with analysis from the staff. So I don't know whether we should say that there's a support from CAC without any analysis by staff on that topic. So I'm not sure whether we want to include that as part.
We're not going to make any vote. We're not going to make any kind of, proposition or any kind of stance. We're just going to say that we like this. and
Vice
we
Chair,
have
I
a
don't
couple
think you
more
should say we
items.
like this. I think that we're interested. It's of interest.
It's of interest.
And to clarify what I brought up, the reason I said I wasn't gonna make a motion, because this is definitely like an hour-long discussion where we get into all kinds of details and may or may not come to unanimity, however you say that. But what I did hear is I heard multiple people, I'm expecting that the board, the concept of ownership might be a little bit frightening to them. I hear that the staff is open to it and it's exploring that possibility. I just want to make sure that the comments we heard from the CAC saying that we also support that if it's possible are heard by the board.
We don't know, we can't support it completely without too much more. We would need a lot of discussion to actually put down a statement saying support. Is that right?
Yes.
So that said, we will definitely make that in exclamation points that we like the idea of ownership. I do think this is not going to be the last thing that we see from this administration. And so that this would be a good practice for Ava to be able to adapt to what's going on. Yes. Okay, I'd like to open this up for public comment. Anybody? Oh, okay, so we actually have Ayla, thank you, from Local Clean Energy Alliance.
No, I guess, I forget if I can ask you direct questions, but, no, I think that my main question here is how likely does Ava believe that PG&E will offer an extension on the timeline? It sounds like, again, from my uninformed public perspective, it sounds like the bottleneck is timing. And if there is more timing, Ava will be able to explore further options without that sort of stress of 2026. And so I'm curious the likelihood of PG&E offering an extension.
Yeah,
that is all.
We've asked directly multiple times, and getting a blanket extension right now is not going to happen. So we may be able to get an extension, April 14th of 2026, if you are a week away from substantial completion and PG&E has had some delays in whatever their processes, you can request an extension. So we would if we go down this path and there's a couple of projects that haven't received substantial completion, we would be requesting an extension at that time. But what we need to solve the problem today with the counterparties we have today is an extension today, and that's not going to be granted. We've asked multiple times at multiple levels.
That's what I heard too. Thank you very much. Thanks. Are there any public comments in the room, further public comments? I'd like to ask for public comments online.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, JP, for this perhaps not so unexpected news, but bad news. Thank you. I'm sure you'll follow through as your wonderful staff has always done. Thank you. And I'd like to, it looks like our next agenda item is item C7, understanding our bill. And move on to that part of the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Good.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Just want to make sure my mic is picking up everything. Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Alvin Lin, Account Services Data Analyst here at Ava Community Energy. Today, I will be going over how the PG&E bill works as an Ava customer. And in the interest of time, please hold your questions until the very end of the presentation. I will be breaking down most of the bill components, so I may even be answering your questions along the way. So hoping that you will all come out of this presentation with a better understanding of the bill and feel well equipped to communicate how it works to your communities and our customers. Next slide. All right, so let's start with the basics. As of right now, Ava offers two different service plans. That first plan is Bright Choice, which is currently set at a rate of 5% below PG&E. The second service plan is Renewable 100, which is currently priced at 1/4 penny per kilowatt hour above PG&E rates. Ava customers can choose to switch to either of these service plans at any time. And additionally, they may also opt out from Ava's services and return to PG&E at any time as well. Fun fact, as of today, Ava's Bright Choice service plan has saved our customers over a total of about $100 million since we began service in 2018. And this doesn't include approximately $44 million in Ava bill credits and CareFair customer credits that we have provided to our customer. Next slide. So first of all of our customers are both PG&E and Ava customers. Our customers are buying power from Ava's power plants instead of PG&E's. Ava buys clean power, which is delivered to customers using PG&E's infrastructure, such as their transmission lines. So how does this translate to billing? Well, every month, PG&E will send a single bill that has both PG&E and AVA charges, as you can see here in the center photo on the first page. Customers will be paying AVA for electric generation charges, which pays for the clean power that AVA buys for them. And then they will be paying PG&E for delivery charges for using their transmission lines and distribution services. Next slide. All right, so let's start with page 1 of the bill and see how it changes once a customer enrolls in our service. Now, this is probably the most important slide, as this may be a big source of confusion for a lot of our customers. So before joining AVA, as you can see here on the left, customers would only see one line item here on the first page of their bill labeled current electric charges. This is because they were receiving both generation and delivery service from PG&E, so those charges would be on one line item on the same page. Now, after enrolling in AVA, they'll be paying PG&E for delivery only and paying AVA for the generation services, which is why they're on separate pages. As you can see, they're two separate line items now on the right side. So to summarize, this additional line item and page is not an additional charge, as AVA generation charges replace those generation charges that used to go to PG&E. Our customers are now buying power from AVA's power plants instead of PG&E's. So if a customer were to opt out of AVA's services, they will just be returning to PG&E and paying generation fees to them, just like they were before joining AVA. So next slide. So now let's go over a sample bill. The first page of the bill has a summary of the entire bill, all the bill components, including PG&E delivery charges, AVA generation charges, and gas charges. So if a customer wishes to change their AVA service plan, they will need their account number, which is found at the top right corner. The total amount at the bottom right there that says about $208.70. That is the sum of all the line items above that, and that may incorporate your previous unpaid balances and credits. Next page. Thank you. All right, now let's look at the general layout of the AVA page. First, we have their rate schedule and service plan here at the top. So this customer is on the ETOUC rate schedule and is currently under AVA's Bright Choice service plan. If they were a commercial customer, they may see B1 or B10S here instead of ETOUC. And if they were on Renewable 100, this is where they would see that they're on that service plan. So the next component we have is the star of the show, the Bright Choice savings, which is the amount of money that they save in comparison to PG&E for being on the Bright Choice service plan. And then after that, we have the net charges, which is the amount of money that AVA collects for the power that the customer uses. And finally, we have the energy commission tax, which is something that every customer has to pay regardless of what service provider they are under. And some customers may also see the local utility users tax, as not every city in our service territory has that. Just wanted to note that AVA does not keep these taxes. We just collect them on behalf of these entities. Next slide, please. All right, so now let's do a deeper dive on the AVA generation page just to see how things are calculated. So this sample bill right here is a pretty common customer of ours, a residential customer under the ETOUC rate schedule and under AVA's Bright Choice service plan. However, please note that everyone's bills are different and that this example and calculation does not apply to everyone's bills, but it's a pretty good representation of the average AVA customer. So the general components of the AVA page can be categorized into 4 sections. We have the energy charges here for the power used, and then we have the power charge and difference adjustment and the franchise fees. So I'm going to abbreviate those as PCIA and FFS on the slides moving forward. And then after that, we have the Bright Choice savings, and then we have taxes. So first, let's dive into the energy charges. So since this customer is on the ETOUC rate schedule, their energy charges will be varied depending on their time of use, which is what TOU stands for in ETOUC. So here we have two different tiered rates shown on this bill. Hope you guys can read that, but the first one is off-peak winter, and then the second is peak winter. So for this customer, their energy use during the peak hours, which is 4 to 9 p.m. every day, will be billed at the peak rate. And then their energy usage outside of the 4 to 9 p.m. peak hours will be billed at a lower off-peak rate. And additionally, this bill lands in the winter months of PG&E's billing cycle, so there's also a winter component to them as well. And then after that, we have the PCIA and the franchise fees church surcharge. And the PCIA, first of all, is the charge from PG&E to ensure that AVA customers pay the difference between what PG&E paid for power contracted to serve them prior to their switch to AVA and the current market value of power. The franchise fee is collected by PG&E to cover costs associated with the rights to use public streets to provide gas and electric service. So both of these fees are factored into AVA's rate setting processes, but we'll circle back to these later when we dive into the PG&E page. After that, we have the Bright Choice savings. And in this bill example, the customer saved a total of about $2.17 versus PG&E rates for the month. If a customer is on Renewable 100, they will see a line item here for their Renewable 100 premium instead of the Bright Choice savings. So for this particular bill example, if the customer was on a Renewable 100, their premium here would only be about 75 cents for clean renewable energy. And finally, we have the taxes, the last component of the bill, which includes the Energy Commission tax and local utility users tax. As mentioned before, we don't keep these charges, we just collect them. So now you add that all up and you magically get that line at the bottom that says total AVA community energy electric generation charges at $48.08. All right, next slide. So the last page we're going to look at is the PG&E electric delivery charges page. The three main components of this page are the generation credit, the PCIA, and the franchise fee. So first, let's talk about the generation credit. Next slide, please. All right, so the generation credit represents what PG&E would have charged our AVA customers for generation service. So why are we subtracting generation fees from this page? Well, we're basically doing that because the rates on this page for the PG&E delivery charges page include delivery and generation. However, because AVA customers receive generation services from AVA now, we apply this generation credit to subtract that out of this portion of the bill. So if you look at the bill on the left, the PG&E side, the 4829 generation credit is subtracted because AVA customers are paying that on the AVA generation part. So if you can imagine, if the generation credit wasn't there on the left, then customers would be getting double charged. So we have this here to make sure they don't get double charged. All right, now let's circle back to the PCIA and the franchise fee. So these fees are shown here. Oh, sorry, Adrian, can you get to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. All right, so finally, let's circle back to the PCIA and franchise fee. So these fees are shown here on the PG&E page on the left, and then they are subtracted from the AVA page. This is because they're presented on the bill, so we can show that AVA customers are getting their discount on top of these fees, since AVA is already factoring them in. So note that the PCIA is assessed by PG&E and can be positive or negative. However, in either case, it's effectively zeroed out by AVA. Yeah, and next slide. And that's all. Thanks for listening. So now we have questions, time for questions if anyone has any.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I do. You go ahead. Okay, Cynthia, go ahead.
Would you remind me again about the PCIA charge, please? How that's calculated?
The PCI, it's power charge and difference adjustment. So can you talk to that, Mr. Lin?
Hi, this is Kelly. What part of the PCIA did you want to discuss?
I would like to just refresh my memory of what the adjustment is and how it's tabulated.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. That's a volumetric charge, which means that it's a fee assessed per kilowatt hour used. And PCIA stands for Power Charge and Difference Adjustment. It is calculated annually or sometimes even more than annually by PG&E. It's approved by the CPUC, and it is the above or below market cost differential between the contracts that PG&E has in place, had in place prior to that group of customers exiting their service.
So let me just ask another question. So it is set by the PUC?
It's set by PG&E and approved by the PUC.
Okay, and it has to do with the volume?
It has to do with contracts and contracts that PG&E has in place.
Okay, it has to do with the existing contracts. Okay.
So it should be going away.
Okay, do we have,
You got two.
oh, we've got, Pete, can you go, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. This is Pete Stevenson, one of the members. One thing that had come up in a few discussions I've had with other individuals about their AVA bills is there's a persistent impression by people that the AVA charges are a double charge, like it's above what they would otherwise pay with PG&E. Of course, that's not true. But I was going to suggest that perhaps it would be useful in the AVA section of people's electric bills that it would mention, hey, you know, it's not an extra charge. We're replacing PG&E's generation with our own, and also maybe just have like a little line somewhere that says, you know, hey, you saved, you know, $13.50 or whatever with AVA compared to being with PG&E's bundled rates. I think that might help ease a lot of confusion that I've been seeing. So anyway, just a suggestion, and that's it.
Yeah, no, thanks for that idea. I think that's great. And yeah, with like Mensch calling out the savings, we do have like the Bright Choice credit line for Bright Choice customers. Then I think we have a line item that says like Bright Choice service plan is currently set at 5% against PG&E. Yeah, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Davis, oh, sorry.
I just wanted to
Okay,
do the math.
Indira's gonna go, thank you.
Can we just, on this last page, 10, so PG&E's number, which is combining the generation plus the distribution, is 48.29, right? And then the 48.08, that difference is the AVA difference, is that the 5% reduction? So I'm just trying to do the math to get the numbers, like which numbers are you doing to get the 48.08?
Yeah. So if you add up pretty much every single line item above 4808, so like the 31, 62, 1667, and then you add those credits, the minus 88, minus 37, minus 241. So everything above that will get you the net charges. So that'll get you to 4463. So that's what we collect for the power that they use. And then you tack on the taxes of 335 and 10 cents after that, and then you get 4808.
But I'm wondering, how is that when you're talking about the PG&E charges? How I'm trying to understand the difference, like.
Oh, like why like the generation credit is like 48.29 and then the
Right.
yeah. So the 48.29 would be more like if you just add up 31.62 and 16.67, because those are kind of like what the PG&E rates are displayed as. And then after you apply all those adjustments is when you get down to 4808.
All the ones below it, like the 0.8, the 0.37, the 5.
Yeah, and then the taxes too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have many other questions, actually. So not presented in this bill is that page 15 in the PG&E bill where they talk about all of the other add-ons, like the wildfire fund and all these other things. So my question is, why are there no anything like that applied to the gas charges? I feel like there's an extra tax for electricity and renewable energy.
So, hi, this is Kelly. I'll take this one. So your question is about the gas portion of the bill?
Well, yeah, but you know, there's on that, my question is about the gas portion of the bill, yes. But also just making a comment about all of I mean, it may be that I have a different kind of bill, but there's all these different ones, like different loans and different wildflower. I didn't bring my bill, but there's like 10 things that are in that last page.
Yeah,
And they're all taken out of, all on the electricity side and not on the gas side. And I'm just wondering, isn't that like an extra tax to electricity, renewable energy, basically? Because I'm not seeing any accounting for the gas. And there must be distribution issues with gas too, and fires that are started and, you know.
Yeah, so the, without being able to speak to the gas portion of the bill, all of those components that you're referring to, those are all embedded in the delivery fees. So that's part of the delivery, the distribution and transmission. So they're just all spelled out on that separate page rather than being individual lines on the PG&E delivery page of the bill. As far as the gas components, we'd have to get somebody who's more familiar with the gas to come and speak to those items. It's possible that PG&E has an explainer on their bill.
Thanks, Kelly. And I really appreciate this discussion because it seems like Ava, I know Ava's doing renewable and electricity, but it seems like all the CCAs should be asking why there's, and I don't know if this is factual or not, but why are we not being explained on our bill? Because PG&E, the gas part, why isn't PG&E telling us what the gas costs are, really? I mean, my electricity, I mean, I have NEMS, so I think I have NEMS, whatever, the original NEMS. So my bill doesn't look like this, but it's still 15 pages and impossible to understand half the time. But it says, you know, $5 for gas, you know, because all this electricity. And it just seems like we're always, by sending these really low numbers and no explanation for gas, we make it so complicated for what we're trying to do. So it seems like, to be fair, we should add that too, at least. And maybe that's something, I guess what I'm requesting is, can Ava maybe talk to PUC about that? Or can we lobby somebody about that to like talk about what the true costs of gas are?
Yeah, thanks for that. We'll take that.
I know it's outside the scope, it seems like, but it seems like it does in the long term impact us.
Yeah, thanks. We'll keep that in mind.
Thanks, Kelly.
Very good. Okay, Davis? Thank you for waiting.
Thank you so much. I will try to keep my questions to a minimum. So just for clarifying, is it correct that the cent like per kilowatt hour rate on the AVA section of the bill is the same rate without the 5% discount? And then you just write the Bright Choice savings, which is 5% of what of the bill cost in the market as a credit. Is that roughly correct? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Thanks. That's a good question. So yeah, the rates on the bill are effectively like the PG&E generation rates, and then we have a separate line item for the Bright Choice discount. We choose to do that so we can like show our customers like, oh, hey, this is how much you're saving. Yeah, if you think about it, like if we already apply the discount to those rates and then like we wouldn't have a separate line item for that, then we wouldn't be as transparent with our customers and like how much they're saving and like how much we're covering, like the PCIA and all that.
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. And then I get my one other takeaway is just it seems overly confusing that there's a generation credit on the PG&E bill. This is another thing that I keep hearing from folks in Stockton is like folks think they're getting double billed. I'm wondering if that's something that is something that we can where to communicate I guess concerns with how confusing that is, because I'm assuming that's a little bit out of Ava's hands, and I empathize with folks that work in the customer accounts arena to have to explain why you're why it's like an algebra problem where you have to show the pluses and minuses on both sides instead of having one kind of summarized area.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Davis. I think the questions that you're getting in Stockton will probably increase once those folks even start getting bills from May. So thanks for being out there talking to folks. And as far as bill presentation, yes, Ava does participate in bill presentation proceedings at the CPUC.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
And I'd like to, I have another one. Well, let's go to Shiva. Thank you, Shiva.
Yeah, this is most helpful. I have a question. I get asked regularly whether someone should charge at home or at a Tesla charger. And Tesla charger, the rates are clear. It's just one number, depending on the time of day. How do I answer that question? What is the rate if they are charging at the least off-peak time? What is the rate? Is there one number I could provide? And is it more favorable or less favorable than the Tesla supercharger rate in the East Bay, which is about 30 to 50 cents, depending on the time of day?
Great question. So what I would encourage you to do is you could look at, for your friends who are asking, you can look at the EV2 tariff. We're going down a rabbit hole here, folks. We're looking at tariffs, but in that tariff, it describes what the off-peak rate is. I'm assuming, first of all, that the folks that have Teslas are also on the EV2 rate, so they're on an electric vehicle rate. But those off-peak rates are around 30 cents all in, for T&D and generation, which I think is less than a Tesla supercharger. I believe those are somewhere in the 45-cent range. Welcome to check that out. So yeah, typically they would be better off charging at home, assuming that they are charging on the off-peak time.
Got it.
If they were to charge at home on the on-peak time, chances are good that the Tesla supercharger rate is also elevated. But off-peak at home is going to be better.
Thank
Lower,
you.
though.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, Indira.
So the second part of my question on page 15 is there any rule or if you look at the generation charges, I guess you have to go. Anyway, they are at least a third less than the distribution charges. And I'm wondering, is there a way to cap the amount of distribution charges so that, because that's the rates that are driving up our bills so much. Is that something?
Distribution rates are set by the investor and utilities, so that's by PG&E in our case, and they are approved by the CPUC.
They're set by Casio?
They're requested. The PG&E sends a requested set of rates to the CPUC, and the CPUC then either approves or denies and requests that PG&E recalculate their rates.
How often do they get denied?
No, I don't know that history. I'm so sorry.
How often do they get denied by the?
I'm sorry, I don't know that history of how often they are denied versus approved.
We're just trying to figure out, because of the ad hoc energy affordability group, we're trying to just figure out what levers Ava has, and it doesn't, so it's PG&E sets them based on their hardware, right? Or based on what they need because they get their money, was it 8% or something? But is there any lever that Ava has to talk about distribution versus generation? Because if you ask me, building solar and all the things we're building as Ava, that's very expensive. But I don't understand why Ava's, I know we're locked to PG&E, but I mean, can we just let the rates go so high without even saying anything back to PG&E or PUC or? I don't know.
Yeah, Ava does, we do participate at all of the various proceedings regarding rates, and we do advocate for customer rates. We are not in the distribution or transmission business, but we do advocate for affordability.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Shiva, are you still, you still have a question? Your hand is raised.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I don't. I'll lower my hand. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Shiva. Okay, are there any further questions in the room? I'd like to open this up to public comment. Anybody online?
There are no, there are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, well, very good. Just to let staff know, the ad hoc committee for energy affordability will be talking about the bill as well. And we're going to move on to the next portion of our meeting. Thank you very much, Alvin, and your comments, Kelly. That was very, very helpful.
Thank you.
So shall we start with, now that we're on the subject?
Now that we're on the subject? Sure.
Energy affordability ad hoc.
So we had a meeting on February 10th, and it was kind of a smaller group because we had Jim and Vice Chair Souza and myself. And we had a discussion. We kind of went through a whole bunch of different things. I'm just going to briefly mention them. We talked about the Central Coast Community Energy, and we talked about, there was a talk that was given that we were, and I'll talk about that in a second, but anyway, we talked about what Central Coast Community Energy has been doing there. They don't have projects like we do. So there's pros and cons, and one of them is they don't have projects like we do, but their prices are lower. We talked about Casio and sort of what Casio does. And then we talked about how
I think you
PG.
mean CAISO.
I say Casio.
You said Casio, but it's
CAISO.
C-A-I-S-O.
Okay, CAISO, Casio. Okay, CAISO, sorry. And how PG&E works together to control transmission, energy emergencies, and clean energy. We talked a little bit about municipal utility districts and the specific types of public utilities that they are, being owned and operated by a local government. And the examples are like Alameda, SMUD, East Bay Municipal Utility District, Marin. And we talked about those. And we talked about microgrids and the resilience hubs and how they're a good beginning, and they're kind of a prototype of the idea of the microgrids. And talked about the Fremont Fire Station being a microgrid, a resiliency hub. We talked about how PG&E's profit is disconnected from how much electricity they sell, and that PG&E profit is based on maintaining hardware. So we talked about solar being curtailed in the middle of the day and in spring because PG&E can't ramp up Diablo nuclear power plant. And we talked about the local bottoms-up resources like that would be really good to focus on. Microgrids, distributed solar, storage technologies to displace expensive utility spending. We talked about distributed rates increasing by 42% since 2023, and how transmission rates, that's the distribution, and transmission rates increased by 34%. And AVA's generation rates increased by 4% in 2023, since 2023. Energy rates have increased by 127% since 2014. PG&E is putting itself out of business at these rates of increase. That was a comment. There's a lawsuit apparently about PG&E as a monopoly on power in California. It's considered a market failure, and PG&E is given significant control over customers and profits. And the PG&E criticisms, which we all know, are rate making, liability, infrastructure. We have some articles that we read and can share with you as well. And then we talked a little bit about the revolving door at PG&E and PUC. And some of the next steps we wanted to do was to talk to people with knowledge of regulation and requirements on AVA. Learn more about the solar feed-in tariff. How can we set up the ability to buy all electricity that we make, not the amount we use, like how to bill using the electricity you make versus the one you use. Might have been NEMS actually. Find out the things that AVA can do to help customers that they're not doing currently. And I think that was a big comment. Like, what can AVA do that we're not currently doing? And then could AVA put political pressure on the legislature, PG&E, CPUC, and the governor? I know that AVA already is, but is there anything we can do in addition? What sort of support could AVA provide to help cities buy and sell power? And if Oakland became a municipal district with AVA, is that a possibility that Oakland become a municipal utility district? And then we kind of had a conversation about could AVA link, serve these districts, kind of like microgrids or something. Isn't that, Mickey, do you think that, Jim, do we talk about that? And then we decided our next steps were going to be, Vice Chair Souza was going to follow up with a discussion with a legislative lawyer, possibly, if that we can do that. And then Member Lutz was going to contact Richard McCann, whose presentation was sent out before our meeting, and then we can share with you. He works for the Solar Alliance, is that what it is? California Solar Alliance? Consultant for them. It's a really good presentation. He had a lot of good recommendations. And I was going to talk to the CAISO expert, who I know works for PG&E, to see what she had to say. And we had questions of, can energy rates for generation and distribution be broken apart? And can AVA weigh in on the PG&E lawsuit? Maybe we already have, I don't know. Is there anything you all would like to add?
Well,
Mickey put together a beginning of a presentation that we're going to show you, but we thought we would bring the whole committee together to look at it and to find, kind of finalize like this, like first stage, and then see where it goes from there. And we don't have another meeting date right now.
right, and so I think what comes next is our framework for this particular ad hoc, the energy affordability ad hoc. So the framework and what we're going to be working on, and a lot of it does involve looking at how the PUC is actually functioning or whether it functions, and the PG&E, breaking it apart and seeing if there's anything we can glean from why the rates have skyrocketed, and much of the blame is put on wildfires, and why the consumers are footing that bill, where if I look at it like, if you have a house already, your electricity is already there, your wiring and everything, and so that's already been paid for, and so that's what basically distribution is. And what we expect to pay for is the need for the generation of the electricity that is put onto the wires. Now, I can understand there will be some investment if we needed to upgrade our electrical system in our own home, but that's already paid for, and PG&E can't keep asking, or should justify why its electrical system needs to be upgraded in such a way and in such a fashion and at such a high cost to the consumer. And so we're going to put that framework together in the next month to see what can be done, and some recommendations, because I as a business, my business, we talk to people who have skyrocketed electrical utility costs. And normally it's on energy efficiency and how to cut back what their use is. But in this case, there's nothing I can really tell some of these people, because the distribution charges have skyrocketed to the point where I believe that PG&E is going to price itself out of a business. But nonetheless, we'll go forward with what we have and pull ourselves together and become inventive and strong community. So that said, any further questions on the energy affordability? ad
Comments?
hoc? Any public comment?
No, there are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to our next ad hoc, the Local Business Development Plan, LDPP. It's a mouthful. Jim, can you?
Yeah, we met on the 7th. It was Cynthia, Mickey, myself, and we got Ann Olivia, who used to be the chair of the CAC and was actually involved in the startup of, at the time, EBCE. So she gave us a quick history of it, of the original LDBP, and which sort of came out of the organizations and was driven by the vision and the desires that were behind the advocates that actually started EBCE. So there were, trying to make sure that the money we spend for the electricity goes to local development instead of for wires and who knows where PG&E sends it. It was to identify key community priorities. And that, out of the discussion we had after, when she was going through the history and afterwards, it was basically, we want to tell the board that not to abandon the business plan, but to update the LDBP, but to update it to account for all the changes that have happened in the past 5-6 years since EBC now AVA started. And go back, we plan to go back, identify the original stakeholders, some of whom are in this room, and Igor's on the board now, and others, and find out what they think should be, what it should be updated to, what it should include, what's new. And then there was also a discussion of going to the cities and see what they liked about what was in the old LDBP and what they want to get into it, and then figure out a process to create a new LDBP for the next 5 years. And got a meeting that I need to catch Ernie and VJ and Mickey and Cynthia while we're all here on when can we meet again. But we're going to keep working on it. So no proposals at this point.
Yeah, I think also then we would want to also have a framework other than, I mean, I think you mentioned that we were looking at what was done, what was not done from the previous 2018 LDBP, and look at the ones that are relevant today and discard the ones that are no longer relevant or unfeasible, and then maybe add some new ones.
Yeah.
And then, of course, go back and look at some of these experts and see who we can motivate to perhaps join us, and then find out if there's any support that can be given through AVA for a new LDBP to be developed. So that was it. And also perhaps elevate LDBP as a possible vision or a way to create visions for AVA community energy, because the LDBP will will tap the mind trust of community as well. So to help guide this organization, because there's a lot of really smart people out there that we would love to hear from. Anything?
I'd like to add something to that. So the other addition that I would like to make is that I was gonna work with I'm a delegate to the Alameda Central Labor Council, so is Ernie, and to speak to our current president, who is Keith Gibbs, and get some input there. Also include the local clean energy group, and see, there was one other group, and also the building and trades. And Ernie, I don't know if you have any other groups that you might want to consider, but maybe reconvene the local development business plan update with some of the partners that we worked with initially. Yes. And would that be your organization also?
Well, I mean, CWA will participate in other stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I missed the last meeting, so yes, talking to the CLC makes sense, and to some of the partners who were there at the beginning and dropped off over the years.
Right. Well, very good. Well, thank you for your great work. You know, I'm here to help as much as I can as well. Encourage all the members to, you know, to consider who have not yet joined us to join us in these meetings. They're once a month. We're going to be around mid-month so that we can kind of.
We have to stay below a quorum on the
We do
ad
have,
hocs.
yeah, it will be reserved only for those members that have already been asked to join.
Right.
And voted on. But that doesn't mean, you
But we
know,
want input.
you know, that there can't be public comment or agreement from some of the other CAC members to help us along as well. So
Well,
stay tuned.
I expect we'll bring whatever was developed back to the CAC at some point.
Yeah.
At CAC vote to.
Well, we're definitely looking at least one presentation, a formal presentation for next month, for the March Community Advisory Committee meeting.
For the affordability, not from LDPP.
Maybe, but definitely for
Just
the
an
energy
update.
affordability.
Yeah, just an update.
Okay. Very good. And so at this point in time, do we have any public comments? Any questions from online?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Very good. Well, I'd like to make a request for any items for the future.
I expect the ad hocs will have.
The ad hocs
updates.
will, okay.
Well, yeah. Well, for speakers, could we request speakers to come?
I think, I don't know, I would refer that to Adrian. Can you help me, or can we have a speaker?
Speakers for.
Well, because we thought it'd be great from the energy affordability to have, what's his name again? Richard McCall.
Oh, okay.
Because he
wrote the.
Richard McCann.
McCann.
Yeah,
Richard
if
McCann.
we could, if that's a possibility, I think that would be great to hear from him, because he's been working with all the solar folks and the PUC, and he seems to based on the slides we saw and the video, he's pretty good. I guess we could watch the video too.
Well, I think that we can ask Ed about that.
Okay.
I would imagine that it would have to go through staff and, we would have some discussion about that. I'm not in any place to make a decision
Right,
here.
okay. The second thing I just wanted to
I
mention.
like the idea.
But no, I just want to mention that, so we got an email today from the CEO, from Howard Chan, and I thought it was excellent. And I just recommend reading it because the information that he shares, it kind of, you just see the broad width of work that Ava's doing and really what a good job. And he talked about, the different conferences, and I had asked Katie if we could get us, be invited to the next CCA conference. I guess it's a CAC conference. CCA conference, if we could be invited to that.
Cal CCA.
Cal CCA, so I want to put that out there. And the second thing is, it'd be great to hear the summary of what happened at the national CCA conference that was in Washington in October. Good to find out what questions, how the different states are doing, pros and cons, positive, negative. And that was all in Howard's email. It was very good, the way he explains things. I kind of wonder if, like Stockton and Lathrop, there's a deeper dive as to, I think it was called LEAN, or that organization, that's the one that organized the national conference in October. He says that CCAs are democratizing energy. And I think that message is a pretty good message. And if Stockton and Lathrop get that message, I mean, there's a deeper reason. We talk a lot about the money, but I think the climate impacts and the actual people, communities being served and bundling the communities, because he had a list of 1 through 4, the highest quality CCAs. And I know I get my acronyms wrong, but I think that that kind of thing is a very important thing to share with Stockton and Lathrop. Because, it's pretty good stuff. And I hope Howard keeps sending out those emails. They're great.
Yeah, the altruistic reasons for joining CCA.
Did I say too many things?
Yes.
Okay.
There's quite a few, and we have to look at that as well when we make our decisions. It's not just about money. 'Cause in the end, the money is gone, and somebody who has control is really in control of our money, and they shouldn't be. So that's the reason for joining a community advisory, community aggregator. But anyway, so that said,
Can I add?
yes.
Can I add one other thing? Yeah, I had mentioned it earlier, but a board member, Igor Trepp, I can't pronounce his name exactly correctly, but he requested the governor, I think is gonna, and you mentioned it in your report, the governor's doing something on renewable energy. Is there something? There's a report out.
Oh, the energy.
The energy
affordability
affordable
is
executive
what that
order.
is, yeah.
2025.
Isn't that what we're talking about, the Energy Affordability Act from Newsom?
Yes. And so, I would like to see that report come here, also has, in addition to going to the board, because I think the future is renewable energy, so I want to be, I think the community and myself need to be informed.
Okay, so that said, I think somebody would have to give that presentation for to probably from staff would have to do some sort of, I guess, presentation on what that means for AVA. The Energy and Affordability Act and how it's going to affect. I'll just note that. So is there anything else?
Yes. So I just wanted to make an announcement that going forward, the CAC. Oh, my apologies. Of course. Yes, so I just wanted to inform the body that the CAC will meet going forward at AVA headquarters at 1999 Harrison Street, Suite 2300, Conference Room 5. So that will start with our next meeting. So this is our last meeting at this location. We will meet going forward at AVA Community Energy. So if you have any questions about that, please, just reach out to me. But otherwise, I look forward to meeting you all next meeting at AVA.
So the March
Venue,
meeting.
Yes, well, say goodbye to this room.
March
Yes.
17th.
I thought they said
And
Oh, yeah.
is parking an issue?
We have parking, we have a parking garage in the building,
Okay.
and we will provide reimbursement for parking.
And a swimming pool?
No, not a swimming pool,
Hot tub.
but there's a sticker that you'll pick up that you pay for parking upon exit, so we won't need to send in a picture of the receipt. That would be reimbursed later. You're reimbursed immediately.
Oh, nice. All right, well, let's see, it is a little late, apologize for the long discussion, we knew it was gonna be a long meeting. I'd like to close this meeting, it is now 8:51. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Good night.
Busy meeting. Did you? That's a good trick.